Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GWOT FOB podcast. My name is Jim Robinson. I'm your host for the evening. This podcast is brought to you by Combat Outpost Robinson, doing great things for our veterans suffering with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and military sexual trauma. And as promised, we're finally getting this thing up and going. We've had a bit of problem, but we've got it all figured out now. And our first guest on the podcast is going to be Dr. Kathy Platoni, who is a dear friend of mine. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on her and a little bit of her bio, and then we're going to turn her loose. So, yeah. So don't hold back, Kathy.
I won't. I'm a badass, so I'll go for it.
I hear you. Okay, Dr. Catherine Teresa Platoni is a clinical psychologist, colonel, retired U.S. Army, Dayton SWAT team, member of Dayton Fraternal Order of Police Association, member of the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. She's a member of the Greene County Hall of Fame, director of support services, Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Lodge 117, and editor of Combat Stress magazine. Dr. Platoni has been a practicing clinical psychologist for 43 years and maintains her private practice in Centerville, Ohio. In service of her country, and as an Army Reserve clinical psychologist, she is deployed on 4 occasions in a time of war. Dr. Platoni served as commander of the 1972nd Medical Detachment Combat Stress Control at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba from 2003 to 2004, where combat stress control became a critical element of the Joint Task Force mission in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in the global war on terrorism. Having volunteered to return to active duty within weeks of her redeployment from Joint Task Force GWOT, Dr. Platoni deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, holding the position of Deputy Commander of Clinical Services for the 55th Medical Company in Baghdad. 7 subsequent locations, finally as officer in charge of Team R. Ramadi, situated the seat of the insurgency and during times of intensive combat at the invitation of the 3rd Brigade Commander, 3rd Infantry Division. Upon the conclusion of her tour of duty in wartime theater, Dr. Platoni reported to the home of the infantry, Fort Benning, Georgia, for an additional 6-month mission in order to provide the reintegration service of the 2nd Battalion, 67th Armored Regiment, due to elevated numbers of psychological casualties among combat armed soldiers. Dr. Platoni was last deployed to the combat theater of Afghanistan in 2009 through late 2010 with the 467th Medical Detachment, Combat Stress Control, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, serving as clinical advisor for the medical detachment and officer in charge of Team Wilson, Kandahar Province, and Camp Phoenix in Kabul, Afghanistan. She was assigned to the 1493rd Medical Detachment in Cary, North Carolina, until the time of her retirement as a supervisor of the tragic Fort Hood Massacre in November 2009. She's an ardent activist for reconsideration of this shooting incident as an act of terrorism to assure that the wounded and families of the deceased are awarded long overdue benefits, and was very instrumental in the awarding of the Purple Heart Medal to the Fort Hood wounded and the families of those who lost their lives in that tragic day. Kathy, that's just a short piece of your bio. You got a very, very impressive bio, sweetheart.
That's only because I've been on the planet so long.
I know the feeling. Okay, why don't you give us a little inside look at your upbringing, your background, what led you to the medical field and then eventually into the military?
Well, I grew up in a small town in upstate New York called Yorktown Heights. A lot of people don't think it's upstate, but I'm from there, so I'm going with that. Um, I loved my hometown, and I still have many ties back there. My family still lives in New York State, and none of my recent family members have ever served the military. My father was a Navy man, served during World War II. Um, his exposure to radiation during the bombing of Nagasaki took his life at the age of only 57. And both of my grandfathers served in World War One. In fact, my mother's father, Grandpa Greenberg, was the paymaster for the Tsar, and he escaped into Poland holding on to the underside of a boxcar and
Wow.
and and emigrated to Canada and then onto the United States and during World War II. So that's the extent of the Platoni. That's my maiden name, by the way.
Okay.
Service um, to the armed forces. But I served for 40 years, and here's how I got into the military. Um, Going to college during the Vietnam era, I was ignorant enough to serve on a number of protest lines, not understanding what we were doing in Vietnam, but I had a great change of heart after my graduation. I got my master's degree at the University of Miami and kept applying to doctoral programs. Couldn't get in, it was very, very competitive. And the dean of the uh, doctoral program that I was finally accepted to said, how about an Army scholarship? Because I was making $16,000 a year as a social worker, and that wasn't going to cover $20,000 a year worth of tuition. So I
Right.
applied, got a full ride, owed the Army 4 years, and I gave them 40 because after my first retirement from the Army, I joined a branch of the Ohio Army National Guard called the Army Military Reserve and served another 6 years for a total of 40. I might add that my husband served 25 years active duty Air Force, um, retired long before I did. I loved it a lot more than he did. So even though the Army was about as far as you could get from my thoughts when I was in college and getting my master's,
Right.
it has become my life, and I would redeploy in a New York millisecond to do it all
I
over
know.
again. So that is the well, even when I joined the military, my idea was sitting behind a desk in a clinic and treating as many soldiers and family members as I could. But I found out very quickly that I was a field rat. So I loved going to the field, couldn't get enough of it, not knowing
Right.
that I would deploy 4 times in the years to come.
Right.
So
And you did how many deployments to Iraq?
one to Iraq. I deployed for 6 months during Operation Desert Storm, but that was
Okay.
a stateside deployment. And
Okay.
after I returned from Joint Task Force Guantanamo Bay, I was there for a year. A few weeks later, it was time to gear up for Iraq, served there for just about a year, and then Afghanistan for just about a year as well from '09 to '10, no, to 2010, sorry.
Okay. What was it like in Iraq?
It was adversity like nobody's business. But well, Iraq was a resort next to Afghanistan, and I do have to say that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh boy, what a difference! But we learned to adapt to hardships and adversity very quickly. Um,
Right.
from the comfort of Baghdad, I was deployed on my first mission to the Sunni Triangle of Death for 5 weeks. And after that, I was sent to 11 different installations, ending up, as you mentioned, at Forward Operating Base Ramadi during the height of the war and in the seat of the insurgency. So we saw a lot of combat and a lot of loss of lives. Um, what sustained us was the camaraderie, and I still have close friendships with several people from the 3rd Infantry Division that I served with. They will always be
Absolutely.
my brothers.
Absolutely.
But
So what about go ahead.
living in the desert is a very interesting proposition. Um, Survival depended on one another, and a lot of gallows humor. Um,
Oh, I'm sure.
we did a lot of stupid stuff that I will never talk about, but it was pure survival.
I like that.
I auctioned off my
Uh,
NCOIC off the top of a Humvee one night, and we used to go out on missions. We were in a compound with um, the United States Marine Corps Second Anglico EOD, Explosive Ordnance Detail.
okay.
So we go out on missions with the Marines to blow stuff up. That
Okay.
was our entertainment.
Well, if you want to call it entertainment, okay.
Oh, there it was. We all smelled
Oh,
like a goat because you got to
oh, I'm
shower if you were
sure.
lucky every 6 weeks, and we really didn't have washing machines per se, so we would
Right.
just wear our one of four uniforms that we were issued into the shower, take your boots off, and
Right.
you were dry in a second as soon as you stepped out into that desert heat.
Oh, I'm sure. Uh, what was it like in Afghanistan compared to Iraq then?
Much more austere. It was both a desert and mountainous terrain, very, very harsh climate. Starting in about April, the temperature increased to about 130 degrees, and you're humping around in the desert with half your body weight in weapons, combat load of ammo, first aid kit, body armor, helmet, rucksack, and anything that you could carry, you took with you.
Right.
And it's interesting to learn to run when you're less than 5 feet tall with all that gear on. But hey, when you're under attack, you're running. I was embedded with the 4th Infantry Division in Afghanistan, and again, brought home a lot of friendships that are pure sustenance to this day. A
Absolutely.
lot of combat missions. Um, saw a lot of combat. I wasn't directly involved in combat per se, but there is no rear echelon, so you're on the front lines no matter what. So you're in combat for
Right.
all intents and purposes.
Right. And
So
you was there in 2009,
correct,
2010?
yes,
Okay. All right. I've got a good friend that was there in 2009, and of course, I lost my son there in 2010. So,
I am
uh,
so sorry. Your struggles
well,
are
thank you.
far greater than anybody else's. Gold
Well,
Star families,
I don't.
yes,
I got the most respect and admiration for you guys. So I'll tell you, uh, just kind of off topic here, real quick. I was at a Veterans Day event, Veterans Day this past Tuesday, down in Cincinnati for the Duke Energy Group,
oh yes,
and great group of people down there. They got a great group of veterans. They got a good, managerial team down there. Supervisors was awesome, and I started my little speech off with not thank you for your service, but thank you for my freedom,
yeah.
and I meant that from the bottom of my heart.
I
So
know you of all people meant it from the heart,
yes,
yes.
absolutely. So met a lot of great people, met a lot of new friends. So
That's
and
wonderful.
met some people that I'm gonna get a chance to help. So it was a great day. Uh, all right, let's get into kind of the reason that we're here today, and
Yes,
would you give us a rundown of the Fort Hood Massacre of 2009, and what it was like for you personally, and the struggles that you and some of the others have been through ever since.
yes. Um, yeah, the Fort Hood Massacre lives on my shoulder all the time. It's always right there. It was a balmy November day. We were going through the Soldier Readiness Processing Center to get ready to deploy to Afghanistan. Our sister unit was going to Iraq. Um, we had to go through all of our medical checks, audiology, ophthalmology, wills and powers of attorney, finance, all different stations and a large complex of buildings um, at Fort Hood. And it's usually a 2-day process because the lines are extremely long. There's thousands of soldiers both returning from deployment and getting ready to deploy. I was in building 42003. That's the building where the shooting occurred, and sitting in rows waiting for my turn to start my medical exams and vaccinations, about 5,000 of them. And sitting in the back row, waiting my turn, a young soldier came up to me and said, "Ma'am, come with me." And I said, "Why? Where are we going?" And he said, "Well, you're a full bird colonel, so you need an escort." And I said, "I do? No, I'm going to sit at the back of the line where I belong and wait my turn like everybody else." So about 20 minutes later, another soldier came up and pointed to several of us and said, "It's way too crowded in here. You need to go to the building across the street to finish your medical checks." So we did. I had no special privileges, no. And after that, I was cleared to deploy. Went to another building in the Soldier Readiness Processing Center called the Soldiers Dome. And at about 1:32 p.m. on November 5th of 2009, I heard a civilian screaming, "They're shooting! They're shooting in the other building." I ran with well, before I started running towards the door to get to building 42003, which has since been torn down, I might add, I pushed as many soldiers out the back door of the Soldiers Dome as I could. I wanted them out and as far away from the shooting as I could get them, and ran towards the door to go save my fellow soldiers and friends. And I couldn't get out the door because the wounded and the dying were being carried in. I will never forget the looks on the faces of four of my dear friends as they carried in Captain John Gaffney. I've become very close to his sister. They're part of my extended family now. Well, not even extended. They're right in there with the rest of them.
Right.
And he was mortally wounded. He was shot 3 times, one in the heart. They laid him on the floor. And even though I wanted to go to the other building to help get people out, I knew my job was to try to save John. I didn't know initially that he was mortally wounded. So Major Sean Gargan and I went to work and tried to save him, but his wounds couldn't sustain his life.
Right.
We had no medical equipment whatsoever, so I ran around the room looking for anything, even water, anything, and I needed blankets for the other wounded and dying that were being carried in. So there were tablecloths on all the desks in the Soldiers Dome, so I threw all the computers on the floor. God knows how much money I cost the U.S. Army, just so we could have some tablecloths to use as blankets. I remember how hard soldiers who had not been wounded were desperately trying to save the lives of the others who were carried in, and some survived and some were far beyond surviving. Um, as more and more casualties and fatalities were carried in, we tried to get people into back rooms for safety because we didn't know if there were one or two shooters or where the shooter was. They couldn't bring in ambulances because the shooting was still going on. It was a disaster of absolute epic proportions. But there was no time for panic mode. There was only time to try to save lives and run towards the danger rather than away from it. And I learned that lesson very powerfully that day. It was two civilian military police officers, Sergeant Mark Todd and Sergeant Kimberly Munley, that felled the shooter. He was killed outside, or I'm sorry, he was shot outside building 42003, partially paralyzed from the neck down, fully paralyzed from the waist down. But those two heroes were the ones that stopped him from killing any more soldiers and
Right.
civilians. Sergeant Munley's gun jammed. She was shot, I believe, 3 times by Nadal Hassan. It's hard to even say his name, so I'll just call him the shooter.
Okay.
In the
That's fine.
in the hours that followed, we were placed on lockdown in the Soldiers Dome so that we could be interviewed by the FBI and Army CID. and giving our witness statements to them as well. Most soldiers were absolutely stunned. People were crying, sobbing, wailing, vomiting. I've never seen reactions like that, which are very appropriate and completely normal at a time like that. That night, we were finally released at 11 p.m. to meet up with the rest of our unit who was in the Iron Horse dining room. And at that point, nobody knew who had died and who had survived. So it
Right.
was a very tearful reunion when people realized that several of us had survived, or many of us had survived. But we lost 13 soldiers, or 12 soldiers, and one retired Army civilian who was a physician's assistant that day, and the unborn baby of one of these soldiers who had just redeployed from the combat theater. That night, I found out the 5 soldiers that had been killed from my unit and our sister unit. We lost 5 total. And nobody slept that night.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably nobody slept for days following. The next day we had what's called, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, roll call, because not everybody had been informed of how many soldiers we had lost and how many were wounded. And what happens in roll call is that, and the list of all members of the unit is read, and for whomever does not answer, their names are called 3 times, and you know who's not coming back.
Right.
I've, again, never heard so many screams and wails in my life. It was horrific. And we'll never forget it. It's as clear as it was 16 years ago.
I understand.
Yes, you
Totally
do.
understand. Oh Lord.
Yes,
Yeah. It was a tragic situation,
yes,
and there's been a huge injustice done
yes,
to you personally and all the other survivors and
yes.
uh, family members of the deceased. So,
That is
you
correct.
know, some of our listeners may not know, but that incident to this day is still classified as workplace violence
That is correct.
instead of an act of terrorism.
That is absolutely correct.
So, why don't you walk us back to what the shooter yelled just before he opened fire on everybody?
He stood on a desk and yelled, Allahu Akbar, which means, I'm about to assassinate you. And he
Right.
took as many lives as he could, which was his motive from years before.
Yes. And it's my understanding that prior to the massacre, the shooter was under investigation by not only the FBI, but also the CIA because of his radical ties to radical Islam.
That is correct. Yes, he was under surveillance for 6 years by the FBI, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the CIA, as you mentioned, no doubt, the Department of Defense, and the Department of the Army, under
6 years.
surveillance for 6 years.
6 years.
That's
That's
correct.
uncalled for. That's uncalled.
Unbelievable. But it was in August of 2009 that President Obama and Eric Holder um, requested that the FBI and all other agencies shut down all investigations of the shooter, sent him from Walter Reed, where he was doing his residency, a psychiatric residency, as a matter of fact. He was an Army psychiatrist, hard to believe,
Right.
and sent
Right.
him on to Fort Hood.
Mm,
Yes.
wow.
And they knew exactly what he was preaching and exactly what his motives were, which
And
was,
that was approximately 3 months before the shooting took place.
yes,
Math is correct here.
yes,
Wow.
a little over three
That they
months.
They dropped the ball big time.
Yes, they did. And this is,
Oh man.
again, a cover up of global proportions.
Yes, it is. I have in front of me a stack of letters. The first one I've got here is dated February 5th, 2025, and it is to the Honorable Donald J. Trump, President elect of the United States, uh, from the Fraternal Order of Police, asking him to take action on this situation.
That is
Uh,
well, actually, he was president at that time. I had sent it
right,
to him. I sent this same stack of letters to the president with all of the affiliated documents. I believe it's
right.
been 4 times. And in fact,
Okay.
I met President Trump in 2019. He was here in Dayton, Ohio, after the Oregon district mass shooting, another massacre in which
I
I was
remember that.
very involved. And I got
I remember that.
permission from the Secret Service to give them these same letters, dated 6 years prior, to
All right.
deliver to President Trump. 2 weeks later, the letters were sent back because they couldn't be vetted.
Wow.
Yes, that's what my.
This one's February of this year.
In February of this year, I sent the letter again with
Okay.
all of the associated documents.
And again,
And
no response.
I got a form letter from the president.
Imagine that.
That's all
Yeah.
I got.
Wow. And the next letter I've got here is pretty much the same thing,
Yep,
but it's to the Honorable Senator J.D. Vance, which is now Vice President.
correct. No response.
This was dated November 5th, the day of the massacre, 2024.
Correct.
So it was right after he'd been elected pretty much to senator.
Yep,
No
no
response?
response.
No response. JD, get your head out of your ass.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I got another one here dated March 28th, 2005 to the Honorable Senator Bernie Moreno.
Correct. No response.
No response. Wow. That's our tax dollars at work right there,
Right,
people.
you are.
And I got another one here for the Honorable Congressman Ralph Norman of North Carolina.
Response. Congressman
You did
Norman,
get a response.
yes,
Okay.
even though he obviously as a Republican congressman from South Carolina, two dear friends of mine from high school, I'm going to mention their names, Ken Beck and
Okay.
his wife Cheryl Hanhart Beck, know Congressman Norman personally. They met with
Okay.
him. We had a conference call. He promised to deliver the packet of letters to President Trump and ultimately did. And that's how I got the form letter response from the president. So he did receive those letters, form letter only. So Congressman Norman is the only elected official who has ever done anything to help us.
Wow. I got another letter here in front of me dated January 26th of this year to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
Correct. No
Any
response.
response from?
No
No
response. No
response.
response. And in fact, I believe it was in 2019 or 2020, I met Pete Hegseth at a Ford Oval of Honor ceremony at which he was the keynote speaker. I asked to meet with him after the ceremony concluded.
But it's
I
to
handed him
the
a
Honorable.
packet and asked him to please take a look at it. Basically, what I got was a smirk, and he handed it off to a staffer. No response. And then this year again, no response. Yep.
Wow. Well, my heart goes out to all of you
Thank you.
uh, because a huge injustice has been
Absolutely
done here.
huge. We have,
And it needs to be corrected, and it needs to be corrected quickly
yes, 16 years is
because
long enough.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. And the reason that it really needs to be done quickly right now is because it's my understanding that Secretary Hegseth is trying to fast track Adele's execution.
Yeah, and I want to be on that firing squad.
I bet you do.
Yeah, first chair.
I would blame you. I would too. I would too. I don't blame you one bit. So, uh, wow.
We have actually written um, probably about 30 different elected officials over the last 16 years, primarily in the last 6 or 7 years, and never once gotten a response outside of Congressman Norman delivering the letter to President Trump.
Okay.
Not
Wow.
one response from any elected official.
Right.
Disgraceful,
It is
shameful.
disgraceful. And while you're on that subject, I want to ask you about one other event related to this. And I'm not going to mention any names, but it's my understanding that you had a sitting U.S. congressman come to your office
That is
and
correct.
threaten you with a cease and desist.
That is absolutely correct. And it wasn't even a veiled threat. In
Wow.
my very office in Centerville, Ohio,
Wow.
another senator um, eh, from another state I gave a presentation in Philadelphia back in 2016 or 2017, and one of the people in the audience knew a staffer at this particular senator's office. So I called the staffer when I returned to Ohio, and that particular person said, "Send me everything you've got." So I did. And this staffer called me and said, "We want more." So I sent more information. In fact, I think there were 3 occasions in which I sent more information, everything that I could get my hands on. And then I got a phone call from this staffer saying I was mentally ill and to shut up and don't ever call again. That's a
Wow.
fact.
Wow.
Yep.
Man, that's our tax dollars at work, people.
Yes.
Uh, all I can say is these people need to get a little wake up call.
They need a big wake up call.
They need a wake up call. They need to see their poll numbers drop, and they need to be replaced. It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plain, plain and simple.
But finding elected officials who care and will take this case on and do something about it, reconsider the Fort Hood Massacre as what it was. It's called a massacre because it wasn't workplace violence, it was an
Right.
act of domestic terrorism, like so many
I
other
believe it.
mass shootings have been called, and yet the Fort Hood Massacre is not.
Yeah, there's something else going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I mean,
Yep, I
for a
agree.
cover up like
I agree.
there, this is being swept under the rug, and
Yes,
it's like everything that's going on right now with the Epstein files. We're just not going to talk
we're
about it.
not going to talk about it. It doesn't exist.
Not going to talk about it. I mean, that's what JD Vance says. We're just not going to talk about it. So, wow.
Wow.
Well, Kathy, I want to thank you for coming on,
Thank you for
and
having me. What an honor to be asked to do this with the likes of
that's
somebody like you. Thank you.
well, I'm not all that, but
Yes,
I'll
you
take
are.
it.
That's a fact,
Uh,
Jack.
I would like to have you back on in another episode at a later things as
I
far
would
as the therapies
love
and
to do
things that
that.
you're doing, and that would be great. And
Count
it
on it.
also give our veterans some views on some different other therapies out there that's available and stuff that might work better for them than what they've been
I
doing.
would
So
love to do that.
that's that's one of the things this podcast is all about. So I'd love to have you back on for that. But
Let's do it.
before we go, is there anything that we didn't talk about here today that you'd like to add to this?
I think we covered things very well. I want to save some of the big truths for another guest and survivor
Right.
of the Fort Hood Massacre. So I don't want to steal all his thunder. He's got
Yes,
quite this.
I've got him coming on in a week or so. So I know who you're talking about, Dr.
Yes,
Hopewell.
yes.
So, and I've got one other one I'm waiting to hear back from that we had to reschedule also. So as
Yes.
soon as we get her, and so I've got some really good guests to follow up on this and keep the conversation
Oh,
going.
yes, sir. Count on that.
And as I promised you before, Scott Mann is a very good friend of mine, and he's good friends with Sean Ryan and Joe Rogan and them guys. And I'll make you a promise here right here today that I'll see to it that Scott Mann gets a copy of this episode, and I will ask him to share it with Sean Ryan and Joe Rogan.
Bless your heart. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
more than welcome.
Our only
Thank you.
hope
I mean,
is people
the
like,
more people we get this in front of, the better.
yes, and it's people like you that are going to bring this into the public eye because our elected officials don't care.
Right.
So,
And the individual that we spoke of just a minute ago, the congressman that came into your office and threatened you, I happen to know that individual. And if you're watching this, you're more than welcome to come and talk to me, but you're not going to threaten me.
send them a
Okay.
copy.
Come on down. We'll sit down in here and we'll have a face to face, and
I would so love that.
absolutely. So, all right, Kathy. Well, thank you for your time,
Thank
and thank you
you.
for my freedom.
Thank you very, very much. You are a hero in my eyes, big
Well,
time.
I thank you for that. But like I said, I'm not all that. And all right, well, I'll let you go for the night, and you enjoy your evening. And like I said, I'll get back with you here soon, and maybe after the holidays, and we'll get you back on and talk about some other stuff. All right, thank you. You take care. All right, good night.
It's 15/2010. It's approximately 18:30 in the evening here at Fort Operating Base Forest. Please tell me your name and your rank, sir.
My name's Corporal Jimmy Robinson.
Congratulations, you just got promoted here. First time being promoted away from the States?
No, I got promoted to PFC during my first deployment.
So this is your second deployment, is that right?
It's actually my third.
Your third. One in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I've done 2 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan.
All right, tell me, what's your job?
My job, I'm a fire team leader, Alpha team leader under Sergeant Riley.
And how old are you, sir?
27.
How long have you been in the Army?
I've been in a little bit over 5 years.
Where do you hail from?
Originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Home of the Bengals, is that right?
That's right.
I was speaking with Sergeant Riley earlier, and he spoke quite highly of you. You guys look like you have a really tight group here.
Yeah, it's we're all really close. We're all pretty good friends across the board.
You have family back home?
Yeah, I've got a wife and 2 kids back at Fort Campbell.
Congratulations, and their names?
Thank you. My wife's name's Kate, and my oldest daughter is Emily, and the youngest is Tori.
Anything you want to say to them?
I love you guys. I miss you.
Very good. Corporal Robinson, congratulations on your promotion.
All right, thank you very much.
And be safe out here.
I'll try.
It's Jim Sperry, August 15, 2010, at the promotion of Corporal Robinson. Corporal, what's your first name again?
It's Jimmy.
Jimmy. That's an easy name to remember. My name's Jim.
It works, huh?
All right, roger that, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Congratulations.